All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So we have this surprise retirement, right? At least for me, I personally did not see this coming. Just came out of left field. Lions fans, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you guys saw it coming. Maybe, there's been some rumors, some rumblings and whatnot kind of taking place behind the scenes. But in any case, Frank Ragnow, just such a rock solid piece. What is he, 29, 30 years old? He's stepping away from football. He is retiring from the NFL, retiring from the Detroit Lions, which, man, it's, again, for me, I didn't see this coming. So putting myself in the shoes of a Lions fan, it's tough to get news like this for a player that isn't 34, 35. You're thinking, okay, this is probably going to be his last year. He was still like in the prime of his career. And also it's post the first couple waves of free agency, post NFL draft. So, to have a huge need pop up like this on this caliber of a team, a win now, oh my, like you're thinking about the Lions, they have talent, they have stars, they have skill all over the place. They have great culture, great leadership, great coaching, great execution from the front office. They know who they are. They have a fantastic identity and vision, how they want to, attack every single offseason. When you're looking at a player like Ragnow, who is now retiring out of the picture, for a team like this to quickly pivot or have a plan B, I think it's pretty tough, right? It's not like you can just, the draft's in a month, let's really start heavily scouting centers. It's over. Is there someone on the current roster that the Lions can really turn to be that starting center? I don't know. You can maybe argue, okay, they drafted Tate Ratledge in, I believe, round 2 out of Georgia. If he's coming in, do you maybe try Christian Mahogany, who I really liked back at Boston College? Do you maybe try him at center? I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch to, I haven't been following Mahogany's, career up to this point with the Lions, but, is that a potential option? I'm not sure. So anyway, the point of this video, the New York Jets have a starting caliber center. In fact, one of the better centers by the numbers in football in Joe Tipman, but they made it a pretty big priority to go out and sign former Green Bay Packer starting center for, a handful of years, Josh Myers. And it wasn't like Myers was this kind of backup swing guy. Oh, he's just playing because of injury. No, he was the go-to starter in Green Bay. And the Jets signed him too. And so we've heard so far through OTAs that Tipman and Josh Myers are competing. And it kind of makes you ask the question, okay, well, from a production standpoint, from a age standpoint, from kind of that homegrown standpoint, just go with Joe Tipman, right? He's better, he's younger, he's on the rookie deal. It just makes, more sense. Why overthink it? I think from Aaron Glenn's standpoint, it's probably, I've coached against this guy numerous times, which leads me to believe that Glenn had a hard time prepping for him, hard time coaching against him, because if Glenn didn't think highly of Josh Myers, they're not going to make it a priority to sign Myers, especially if center's not a position of need. So we do know these guys are competing. And I also think, too, from Glenn's perspective, it creates competition, right? No job is safe here. I didn't draft any of you guys. You're coming off a 5-win team. I need you guys to prove to me why you should be a starter. We're not handing things out here like Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh did, and Jeff Ulbrich. So I get it from that standpoint. But here's the question. In the event that Myers loses the center battle here, could they potentially trade him to the Detroit Lions? And, you're thinking about it again. If Aaron Glenn, who's coming, if Aaron Glenn loved Myers enough to sign him, because I highly doubt that Darren Muji would go out and prioritize signing Josh Myers if Glenn was just like, okay, like we already have a center. It is what it is. Like, I just don't feel like that's the case. I truly think Glenn likes Myers a lot. And again, if Glenn has that understanding, chances are numerous coaches within the Detroit Lions, organization probably feel the same way, coaching against Myers 2 times a year, going up against him, trying to figure out ways to, get the best of him. So could Myers be potentially flipped to Detroit, again, in the event that he loses the center battle? I have a hard time seeing Myers beating out Joe Tipman for the starting job, and then the Jets trading Tipman away. I think at that point you would just want to keep Tipman as depth, as opposed, or unless you get this crazy offer. But I don't know. It's just something to think about, right? Kind of off season. We're in June now. You're just trying to speculate. Hey, could this happen? Could that? Just kind of just strange things happen at this point of the year. Stuff comes out of left field. Frank Ragnow retiring, right? So something to think about. I think right now it's a win-win for the Jets. If the Jets move on from one of their, if they move on from Myers, they trade him away, we're getting an extra draft pick. Sweet. But if not, we have a really quality backup here at the center position. So, I got to say, again, win-win for the Jets. Doesn't really feel like there's a losing scenario here. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts. Because I'm trying to think, too, like free agent centers out there. Maybe David Andrews from the, he was released from the Patriots. They obviously went with Bradbury from the Vikings. I don't know. I don't know what the Lions are going to be doing, but it's really interesting to see, these big time teams, Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, when positions of need pop up like at a random, how do these teams respond? Because there's pressure on them to win. If you have now this, important cog in the system gone, missing, you got to be able to replace that. They're not expected to win 4, 5, 6 games where it's like, we could just throw, an undrafted guy out there and see how he does for development. There's too much pressure on these organizations, to do something like that. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. And as always, go Jets.